Welcome everyone to Town Council meeting of Town of Bowling Green, Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. We do have a quorum. Everybody is here tonight. And I do like to call the meeting into order. If I can have everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We don't have any invocation tonight, so we'll just move on. First thing, we need to make a motion. I need a motion to amend the agenda, please. The motion is I move to amend the agenda to add an agenda item for discussion of retaining Davenport and Company as a town financial advisor. This will be added as item number 13. Do I have a motion as such?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by who?
Randy.
Randy? Any discussion? What was that? Item
already have an
13?
item
All right,
13.
let's, thank you very much. I was handed to, let's make it item 12. 12A, is it new business, old business? What is it? Is it old business or new business?
New business.
All right, make it 12A.
All right, I'll amend my motion. As
All
such.
right,
I'll still second.
okay. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Can also, something that we really need to start doing is accepting our agendas at the beginning of the meetings. We have not been, sometimes we have, most times we haven't. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as it is, please?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Okay, sir. All right, I got it first. I got a second by Randy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The agenda has been adopted. We have consent agenda item number 1. And it is appointment of the town clerk. And I believe the resolution is, whereas the town clerk has resigned as a town clerk for the town of Bowling Green, Virginia. And whereas the town clerk must be appointed to facilitate the execution of the business of the town, and whereas Ms. Adams Jacobs is the current town manager, whose appointment as clerk will ensure town business will continue to be executed without delays. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Bowling Green Council, that the mayor and town council hereby recognize the appointment of India Adams Jacobs as the town manager, as the town clerk of the town of Bowling Green. Do I have any discussion or do I have a motion on this?
Keep it going, so moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by, I got a second by Valerie. Sorry, Randy, she beat you out. Jeff made the motion, Valerie seconded. All right, so this resolution was approved as a, well, sorry. Any discussion? All this, go ahead.
So this is just until we can find a replacement?
This is appointment as clerk for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, this resolution was approved this 4th day of June 2024 by the town council of the town of Bowling Green, signed by me. All right, moving on. Any members' comments? Any members like to make a comment on anything besides Jeff?
Everybody else?
Hearing none, Jeff, you got the floor.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
It won't be long. Just a couple quick update things. I'll go through my little list here. Clean sweep, it was a couple weeks ago. That went pretty fun. I enjoyed it. We had the Goodwill trucks out. They had a really nice haul afterwards. I want to extend my appreciation to everybody that donated after the event. We had tied for a record amount of people here in the parking lot. That went really well. We had a lot of fun. We even had some music and everything. We did get some feedback. The date being the day before Mother's Day was a little bit of a frustration for some. So I think in the future we'll try to look at where that crosses with other events and things going on before we set the date next time. But overall, it was quite enjoyable. We're in the middle of Music on the Green. We've had 2 bands so far. It's been fun so far. This week we have the Mike Lucci Band, and next week is Gloria's Imagination, I believe is the name. And they're both pretty good. 6:30 to 8:30. They're on the green on Friday. For Memorial Day, we had a nice ceremony in front of the courthouse. That was good. I did not get to go to that business dinner. Maybe somebody else could speak to that event. And I'll mention quickly to my colleagues that I have been asked a couple times about our work sessions, people that have been looking for them on YouTube and things like that. So I've been given the request to have them recorded. I know that we don't, and I'm not trying to say we should talk about it right now, but I just want to put that in your all's ears. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
One of the things that I have is I don't see a lot of advertisement going on for Music on the Green. And so I don't know who's out there. I didn't even know we were having 2 more. I thought the 2 we had was it. So, if I don't know we're having it, I don't think anybody else does either. So I think we need to get the social media going on Music on the Green. I mean, it was a good attendance last weekend, very good. But if we want to keep it going, we need to really get it out there. And Clean Sweep, did we do anything with having that picked up, donated to anybody, or do people just take their stuff back in their house?
No, the way that works is everybody that registers, if they have anything at the end of the day that they want to donate, they just leave it at the curb. And same thing here in the parking lot.
so
Everybody
we
just
did
leaves
that.
it. Goodwill truck. Yeah, we had 3 trucks come in, and we filled 2 of them.
Okay, all right, very good, okay. And we're still planning on doing Music in the Green starting in August, India? In September? What are we looking at?
I'll have to give council an update at our next meeting on that. I believe it's September on the bands that were booked, September and then October in coordination with Harvest Festival.
Okay, just remember it gets dark early, so last year we bumped them back a half hour and that kind of worked with the daylight, so remember that way we don't have to try to finagle lights and stuff, and so maybe try to move the times to correlate with the daylight hours.
Absolutely. We'll do the best we can, given that some previous staff already reached out to those folks for commitments. So we'll do the best that we can. Chief brought that up earlier today, and Sean as well. So we'll do the best we can to accommodate.
All right. Anybody else before we move on? All right, moving on to item.
Wait a minute, I've got something. Valerie and I attended the event down on Panola Road, which was very nice, that the Board of Supervisors sponsored.
This was thing at Matt 9.
Yeah.
While we remember comments, I overlooked something here. I was asked to talk about canceling the July work session and regular meeting for the town council. I guess y'all can explain why.
Sure, I'll be happy to explain. We have a couple of commitments that are due either through the summer and early fall, one including copper lead inventory that's due in the fall. We have our FY22 process that is underway, and we have some very firm deadlines in June. And then we also have other finance processes that we have to get established in Town Hall, and then also USDA requirements that we have to work on. So we'll be jam-packed for the month of June and early July. So I'm respectfully requesting that we cancel this meeting and pick it back up in August.
We don't have anything pressing for those months, then?
We do not. If we do have something, I'll request a special meeting, but at this point, we really need to focus on getting some of these other items off our plate.
All right. Anything from council?
What we just forwarded for public hearing in the work session, did we specify August on that one?
You did not, but we'll notice it for August.
All right, okay. Well, otherwise, I guess I'll continue. I'll move to cancel the July work session regular meeting.
So you making a motion, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have a motion to cancel July work session and regular meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second by Randy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, July meeting and work session has been canceled. You all hear that out there, right? Okay. If I forget anything else, please bring it to my attention. All right, now we can move on to public comments. We have public comments. Anybody would like to speak to council, present anything to council? You have 3 minutes in which to do so. Please come up, state your name and address. We are now open for public comments. Seeing none, second call. Seeing none, hearing none. We are closed on public comments. Moving on to staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor. We have enclosed reports from the town manager, public works, finance, police, and community development. In light of our audit presentation tonight, which we're all very excited to receive, we're going to forego any comments on that and turn the floor over to Mr. Grossnickel from Robinson Farmer Cox and Associates. While he comes up, I'd just like to take a moment of personal privilege and just say thank you all for your patience and everything that you all have done as a town council to help us get to this point. It's been a long time coming to get FY21 audits done, a couple of years, maybe 3 years at this point. And I think one of the reasons you all hired me was to lead the process to get the ship righted, to get this back moving forward. So happy to have Andrew here today from RFCA. It's truly been a team effort. You all know I started in January, and at our strategic planning retreat, I think we said we would get it done by July. So we actually, I think, got it done a little bit sooner, about a month ahead of time. I presented you all with the draft tonight with the help of Mr. Grossnickel's team, who's been phenomenal in the last month or so, but also like to thank our phenomenal collaborators at the county, Ms. Morgan, as well as Ms. Jennifer Ernest, who's helped us with some of the institutional knowledge that we did not have, and also most recently Ms. Tina Staples, our new finance director and treasurer, who kind of helped bring us home. So it's been a fantastic team to work with to get us this far, as well as a couple of folks from the Berkeley group who helped us in the first couple of months, Ms. Bobby Tassinari, as well as Mr. Craig Meadows. And with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time this evening. I just want to go over the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2021. Just point out a couple of financial highlights from that fiscal year. So as you know, the main byproduct of our audit process are our auditor reports or our opinions. For the town of Bowling Green for FY21, there were 2 such reports. The first one being the independent auditor's report itself. That's the one that I like to say is on the numbers itself, whereas the other report is compliance in nature. Pleased to report that for the year ended June 30th, 2021, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion for the town of Bowling Green's financial statements on the independent auditor's report. As India alluded to, there was a lot of effort, collaboration, both with our staff as well as particularly Tina in getting us to that point and finding and tracking down documentation that, from previous personnel and allowing us to substantiate balances in some cases in ways that were different than what the standard documentation we might get for certain things. That's the opinion you're looking for on the financial statements themselves. The other report that's contained in the financial statements is what we refer to as the Yellow Book report or the Government Auditing Standards report. And in that report, during the course of our audit process, we evaluate internal controls. We do testing of internal controls to help us determine whether the financial statements are materially correct, identify any issues in controls that can lead to misstatements in the financial statements. And in that report, in that Government Auditing Standards report, we note any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls. We did notate in that report and in the schedule findings and responses for fiscal year 21, one material weakness related to auditor prepared adjustments. We had to come up with a lot of journal entries to adjust the trial balance to the point where we could have accurate financial statements. And so we do have that comment in there related to material journal entries. And then we also typically, and you're probably aware of in often cases, there are things that don't rise to the level of significant deficiency or material weakness, but are still reported to management. And those are what we refer to as management letter comments. So we did issue, you have two loose papers in your information there. One of them is in a memorandum fashion. That is what we refer to as our management letter comments. And we had a few things we noted there, checks that were written to cash, some 941s that were not on file, things of that nature. The checks written to cash were for things that are routine in nature in setting up petty cash for events and things like that. We just like to see that written to a person rather than to cash. And so it wasn't like they were anything out of the ordinary. It's the kind of things that folks that aren't aware that that's kind of the best practice. We'll write it to check, whether it's to petty cash, startup change funds, replenish petty cash, those kind of things. And so that was one of our comments. Like I said, we had 941s that were not on file, some sales tax being paid on some purchases, and want to try to make sure, take advantage of the tax exemption as much as possible. And then there was a couple of general ledger accounts that we'd like to see staff work on trying to reconcile and kind of bring up to date. And then we had we also always issue what we call our governance letter. That's the one that's about 3 pages total, titled Communication and those charged with governance. And in that letter, this is kind of just the things that we communicate at the end of the audit process relative to, some of the significant accounting estimates that the local government has. For example, pension and OPEB liabilities and associated deferred inflows and outflows are estimates. They are estimates that are prepared based on actuarial prepared data, and that's kind of the basis for it. But they are estimates, and those are some of the things that we point out, things of that nature. Whether there's any significant accounting policies that were implemented during fiscal year 21, there were no significant GASB pronouncements, Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncements in 21. 22 and 23, they have some that may or may not have a significant impact on the town. 87, which deals with leases in 23 or 22, and then 96, which deals with subscription-based technology arrangements in fiscal year 23. But for 21, it was relatively status quo related to those Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncements. We do note in here, the only thing I would say that's out of the kind of standard accounting legalese language in the governance letter is there under the corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We again notate and draw attention to the fact that we did have material adjustments that we had to prepare, and that those have been made and reflected in these financial statements. Just I won't get too deep into the financial statements. I know you've just gotten them, and I just want to highlight a couple of financial highlights for the year ended June 30th, 2021. As you're aware, for towns and counties and cities and other governmental organizations, you actually kind of report on two different bases of accounting. You report on a full accrual basis, which has a statement of net position and activities. It's kind of putting a government on par with what how business would report. Under that accounting treatment, the retained earnings or residual is referred to as net position. And on that basis, all of the long-term assets, capital assets, buildings, things of that nature, and all the long-term liabilities, loans and things of that nature, leave, pension, OPEB, those are all captured in there, and that's why they call it on a full accrual basis. On that basis, the total net position for the town, June 30th, 2021, for governmental activities was about $433,000, and for business type activities about $4.8 million. And business type is your water and sewer, governmental is your normal operating funds and capital projects fund. And those respectively were a decrease in the case of governmental activities of $218,000, and an increase in the business type activities of about $725,000. And then the other basis of accounting that governments report is what's called a modified accrual basis of accounting. And that's what some refer to as a budgetary basis of accounting. In that basis, the residual or retained earnings essentially is reported as fund balance. And so on that basis, you have your general fund and capital projects fund are the funds that report on that basis. Those are near-term assets and liabilities, things due within 1 year and things of that nature are measured, and it does not include your long-term assets and liabilities. The general fund reported total fund balance of $280,602. Capital projects fund had a total fund balance of $21,743. General fund balance went down $130,370, and the capital projects fund went down $24,492. The only other financial item I will point out is diving a little deeper into that general fund. You may say, well, we went down $130,370. There's an exhibit 10, when you have a chance to look at that. It's a high-level budget to actual exhibit. Goes over your revenues by category, your expenditures by function, and you can kind of see where the decrease in fund balance was derived from. And essentially, your budget called for potentially using up to $299,000 of fund balance in June 30th, 2021 fiscal year. You actually only used the $130 because revenue came in over budget by about $129,798, and expenditures were under budget by about $23,000. So from a budget to actual standpoint, you actually had favorable variances for the general fund, the main operating fund of the town. I will invite you to look through the rest of the report, particularly the middle of the report is what we call the notes to the financial statements. In those notes, you'll get a lot more detail on some of the numbers that are in the basic financial statements. You'll see a breakdown of like your long-term obligations, your loans and things of that nature. You'll see a lot of information on pension and OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and the data of how the actuaries came up with and calculated what their assumptions were for figuring out what the pension liability of the town is and things of that nature. So that is good data that's kind of there in the middle. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions on the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021.
You had just said something about that we were over revenue. What was that you were saying?
Yeah, from a budget to actual standpoint, the general fund revenues in 21 came in over budget, and the expenditures were held just under budget.
Would that be because we overspend our unassigned funds in place of spending that money? Because I see what unassigned funds is what, 269,662?
Mm-hmm.
Would that have caused that offset?
So, I mean, when the budget was formulated, you had a total, essentially, general fund revenues expected of $1.3 million, essentially, expenditures of about 1.2. the actual revenues came in at 1.46 and expenditures came in at 1.2. You were anticipating using more of that unassigned fund balance than you ended up using. So if you were to look at the 20 report and look at that line where you saw the 200 and some thousand of unassigned fund balance, that number last year was probably about 400, and you budgeted for potentially using more than the 130, but 130 is essentially what you used out of that.
So we basically, at that time, we had 269,662 of unassigned funds available, right?
Yeah, at June 30th,
Okay,
2021.
all right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep.
Anybody have any questions for me?
So in going through 21, nothing nefarious, just brought it up to speed. Are we ready to do 22 now?
So yes, the delays in 21 were not caused by any issues other than getting our hands on the records and kind of working through a lot of staff turnover in the process that initially the audit manager in my office had been in contact with various staff over the last 2 years essentially, and that hadn't been able to start the process. And there's been different folks that have changed. And then once India and especially Tina came in, that process finally got fast tracked and we worked through those. The issues that we had and noted were related to accounting, internal controls, identifying, certain adjustments that need to be made and things of that nature. And then in regards to 2022, I'll let India speak to that. There is a consultant that is going to be helping, I believe, the town get the records ready for us to be able to come in and be as efficient as we can on our end. The more prepared the items are for us, the quicker we can go through our process.
Well, so can you talk us through how long should 22 take?
I would love to give you a time frame on that, but I do not feel comfortable at this point, just because the conversion from the financial systems happened during that year and some other things that they will have to audit. I will say for the record that this took us basically 5 months from the time that I started getting staff in place. And as he mentioned, Andrew started about a month and a half ago after some transition on his team as well. So a lot of work happened prior to his arrival on the process as well, and he's been great since he jumped on and in collaboration with Tina. So on the agenda tonight is also an approval for pre-audit for under new business on item 10, and they have about a month through the month of June to be able to get some of that pre-audit work so that we can hand it over to them. So it could be anywhere between 6 months to 7 months, depending on for 22.
How do you feel about the records you received as far as the audit being pretty good, with the data you were able to?
Yeah, so it was difficult getting there, but I was pleasantly surprised that India may or may not have shared throughout the process. I did not feel necessarily we would get to the opinion that we were able to issue tonight early on in the stage before I got heavily involved in it and got to work with Tina to try to get through the process. I think Tina would also say she was pleasantly able to locate more than maybe anticipated, that there were a lot of documents that were there and available just because of not knowing where they necessarily were. It took a little more time to put our hands on them, but we ended up getting a lot of great documents from the town, and really, we had a couple of items that we didn't have support for. The biggest item was the 941s, and I think moving forward you have some other issues, but in 21 it was, just those were missing forms. We were able, in those cases like that situation, we're able to use different source documents to reconcile payroll expenses from what a standard process is just like a little window into how the whole process would go in some instances where we may not have had the exact form of document that we would get. Typically, one procedure we do is to take the 941s and the 4 quarters and reconcile those to the trial balance. Instead, we took all the payroll runs for the year in payroll summary format and reconcile those. And so situations like that where, you know, we went through the items. When I got involved, I sat down with Tina and went through the list of things that we need, what we normally would get, whether that was something that was available, and if not, what other, you know, kind of source documents could we use to verify things. So, again, I was, you know, pleasantly surprised we were able to get to this opinion, and very, you know, happy that we could. It's going to make the process of going forward much better, because without a good starting point at the end of 21 that you can feel pretty good about those numbers, then every year you kind of are behind the 8 ball. So getting that solidified in 21 is good. 22, you know, as Indy alluded to, my concern is the conversion, and hopefully, you know, between, you know, staff of the town and the consultants, they can kind of make sure that everything is available for us. But there's no guarantee that 22 won't have a, you know, a potential issue because of that, and we'll just have to work through that and see where things lead us. So.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, to add on that, I will just say and commend him. I've been through, I think, 7 or 8 audit processes at this point, and about 3 in another locality that were probably as bad off as we were starting in January. And so he himself has been very creative and flexible with us since starting about a month and a half ago. I wish we had him in January. We might have gotten this done back in maybe March or April, but I'm happy we are where we are now. But just to shed light on what he and Tina just mentioned, they did a lot of work recreating some documents that we just simply did not have. And that's some of the work that the Berkeley group did earlier in January and February as well. So we may have to do some of that in 22. We don't know the full extent yet, but that is why we'll be working with, hopefully, Rutherford Moss to help, who's a widely respected pre-audit firm, so that they can kind of help us hand deliver them clean documents to make the process more streamlined.
Well, I mean, I've been pushing to get these audits done basically since I became mayor. And it's gone nowhere. And I think I'm kind of glad that maybe it hadn't, because it seems like y'all got a good handle on it. I don't know that the past crew that we had would have been able to do just. I mean, it cost us a lot of money to get to where we're at. You know, y'all, I mean, a lot of money. But I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're getting it straightened out. And hopefully each year now we can stay on top and have it done each year when it's supposed to, you know, and that's what we need to really push for. Having good staff, town managers, even though they cost us more than what we have been paying, that's what keeps us on track. And I thank you, I thank India and JC and Tina for seeing this through and pushing it.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. On the 941s, do not have copies, so they were paid, though.
I'll kick it to Tina to say that. And just one thing on the record, JC has no involvement in the audit process, so it's mostly Tina. Don't want to give credit where it's not due. Definitely Tina and I fully on this one, so thanks.
Give them the credit when we mess up. Then it'll be your fault. So the 941s were never filed, as far as I can tell. I found one filing from the last quarter of that fiscal year. So I was hopeful that we may find more, but we did not. And it's going to be an ongoing issue up until this fiscal year, because the 941s were not filed in those years either. The taxes were paid, but you have to do these quarterly reconciliations and annual. Yeah. So we're going to work with the IRS to hopefully try to alleviate some of those penalties. Same thing with the state. It's the same kind of issue. Those filings have not been made either.
So this is just for 2021. That may also happen for 22 and 23 then. So
Oh, it definitely, yes.
Okay, so Well, you can alleviate those penalties too, then I hope.
Yeah, we're gonna try to file for amnesty with the IRS to
okay.
at least make a deal with them, to just say that we're getting it on track now. And I've already gotten the calendar year 2024 up to date, so we're gonna work on filing the calendar year 22 and 23 at the same time, hopefully within the next month. So by the time that they come around to do the audit, they'll have those filings, but they are, being done now as opposed to when they should have been done.
Yeah, and the IRS is surprisingly will work, especially with nonprofit organizations and in some cases local governments on those things more so than they may with individual taxpayers.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Great job, and we hope the draft turns into a final that we can get out of here.
Yep. Thank you all for your
Good job.
time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Really do appreciate it. Moving on, item 3, town manager's report. India, you got any?
Sure, as I said a bit earlier, we're going to just defer since that took so much time, but the reports are included in the packet for your review. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or talk to me later.
All right, item number 4, public works.
We are not going to speak to any of them.
Huh?
We're not going to speak to 4, 5, 6, or 7 tonight. So they're included in the report.
Then we will move right on down. I just wanted to say one on the public works that we're still dealing with a lot of water breaks, but that's something we just have to deal with as we go along. All right, item number 7 we're not doing. Item number 8, fiscal year. Budget adoption, appropriation. India?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we've been going through the budget process, I think, since back in February. We held our public hearing at our May 2nd meeting, and that was properly noticed. And so we're looking for adoption and appropriation, and I will hand it over to our finance director to speak to the rest. I have upper respiratory infection, so I'm trying to save what little bit of my voice I have left, so I apologize.
Alan's gone. What's wrong now?
You can hear it in your voice though, too. So thank you. As the town manager stated, you had the public hearing and met that requirement on May 2nd at your last town council meeting. We did not receive any comments or input from the public on it and have not that I am aware of to date. So the budget is ready for adoption. You have 2 ordinances here. One is for the plan, is the way I like to put it, which is the 2024-504, adopting the budget, all of your tax rates and utility rates. And then the other one is 2024-505, which is the appropriations, which means that you're going to now fund them. So you've got your plan and you've got your money, and then we need both of those for the FY25 budget to be formally adopted.
I've got 15-2503 for the approval of the budget. Right here, is that it?
Oh, that's the state code section. You get a page 20.
Okay, 23. See, that's why I say I want these things tabbed out better, know where to follow through. All right, so you got 2024-504, and then you say the other one is 2024-505.
Yes, sir.
All right. The only thing I have on the budget itself is on the police budget. Was there any reduction in the overall budget, even though we went to 2 part-time police officers, or did the budget stay the same?
I'm not sure if there was an overall reduction, other than, as I mentioned last time, that we were looking to save on some of those benefit costs and increase some hours as it relates to 2 part-time officers in addition, instead of 1, as we're also looking to improve potentially retirement options for the chief, which I mentioned last meeting.
Right, we got the Lido's deal that we've approved to do a study on and to implement.
The Leos, yes, is now referred to as Valors, and we are looking
Valors?
into that. Yes, both myself and Ms. Staples.
Right, because I just have a hard thing about two part-timers when we have a hard time getting a full-time, and that's why I want to know if the overall budget didn't change, why can't we go back to just making it a full-time and do it with two part-times? You know, I mean, it's going to be hard. It's a lot of work on the chief.
Understood. The chief is not the only department in the town. And back to our initial strategic planning session meeting, which I think everyone else was at, we received direction to prioritize financial sustainability as well as our utilities and infrastructure. Public safety was not the one or two on that, and that's why the budget was presented as it was this year. But we are actively recruiting for those part-time officers, and I'm working with the chief to do that. And next year we'll be looking for many options for the police department as well, so for the benefit of the whole town.
That's fine, I understand, but I'm just voicing my opinion on it. So and you told me at the last meeting, your recruiting abilities, so I'm gonna hold you to it.
Yeah, we also have to hold on recruitment as well, and the chief has a big role in retaining as well as recruiting, so I can do part, but the chief will have to do part on retention as well.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt 2024-504 for adopting the fiscal year 25 budget, tax rates, and motor vehicle license fees, and maintaining land development fees and utility rates, fees, and current amounts?
So moved.
I got a motion by David. Do I have a second, please? Second by Valerie. Any discussion? We'll do a roll call. Valerie.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Randy.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Motion carries 100%. They passed the budget. Congratulations, everybody. We managed to do it a month earlier. We don't have to have a special meeting. All right, now moving on to 2024-505, the appropriations of the fiscal year ending for 3025. This is now appropriating the funds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion by David to adopt the appropriations. I have a second by Valerie. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do roll call. Jean?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have adopted the budget and appropriated the funds. Very good, people. That's a big ordeal. We got it done. All right, moving on to item number 9.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you is the ICSA support agreement transaction document in your packet for approval. We brought this item back, I think, in March and discussed it as part of our upcoming budget process. The memo does include those specifics as we've discussed and provided, as you all provided direction at the previous meeting to bring back a document. We've worked very closely with our partners at Fort Walker, Ms. Diane Smith, as well as their attorneys at Fort Walker, as well as Mr. Gore, our attorneys, and after several iterations, we have a transaction document for your consideration for approval. The Commander Duffy will be leaving in July, so we would like to get this executed prior to his arrival so we can, or prior to his departure, excuse me, so that we can have a signing ceremony and then have this in place for the new fiscal year. So that's all that staff has, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
So any of the questions that we had or concerns we had at the last meeting about the contract, they were all addressed and no problems? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you all a couple minutes. One thing I can say, we've been getting the packets out earlier since current staff's on board. Do we have a motion on this, or?
Quick question. So even more so than last time, you would say you're comfortable with facilitating, your all's role in this agreement? Oh,
I didn't hear the first part you said.
well,
Can you repeat
last
that?
time you were saying yes, you were comfortable with it, and then we had a few more changes, so you're even more comfortable with it. Like, this is good for you all to utilize.
Yes, specifically, Mr. Gore had just some clarification points he wanted to have because it was written in kind of federal legalese, and he had some concerns from Virginia procurement language that needed to be added, and they worked through those things. And so, yes, we feel very comfortable, and I'll let Ms. Powell answer any questions on that, if you have any more.
Well, it's just like, at the end of the day, like, for us, it's like, hey, this is potential revenue, let's get it. But at the end of the day, this is workload for you all, so I want you all to be comfortable with, the way that you interrelate with it. So,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah, we're
appreciate
very
hearing
comfortable. We've worked with Ms. Smith to, I think, get it to a point that works for all parties. And then ultimately, we are not obligated to do anything. If it gets to a point where it becomes too cumbersome, we can say, no, we'll pass on this one, or we'll kick a couple down the road. But I think we have the staff in place to get it done.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I make a motion to have the mayor execute the contract.
I'll
Hey,
second it.
that was great. We got a first by Dan, we got a second by Mr. Voigt. Any discussion? We will do a roll call. Jean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
The motion carries 100%. We are good to go. All right. New business, item number 10, which is pre-audit firm engagement approval and authorization, India Town Manager. Tina?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start and then Tina can jump in. I think I mentioned earlier in the year, we had been working with the Berkeley Group to help us with our pre-audit services. They have many other clients and many other items that they prioritize in their business as part of their business model. Mainly planning and zoning focus, and some of their finance staff are going on to other interim positions as county administrators and assistant kind of finance directors. So I had to look out for another pre-audit firm. So what you have before you is a memo related to us retaining the services of Rutherford Moss, which Robinson Farmer Cox and Associates basically said would be a great firm for us to help get us out of the situation that we're in. I've successfully worked with the team of Rutherford Moss to have the pre-engagement before you to begin that work. Now we're in June to begin that work so that we can prioritize our FY22 process and get that moving now that we've completed FY21. So they'll be working with myself and Ms. Staples if you all approve the engagement this afternoon. And that's all that I have.
So who did this work to get ready for the 21? The Berkeley Group?
It was a combination of the Berkeley Group, as well as myself, Ms. Staples, as well as Ms. Morgan and Ms. Ernest from the county in separate capacity from their county positions.
So what will this firm cost us?
So do you want to pull that up?
Sorry, can you ask the question again? What was it?
So what will Rutherford Moss charge us to get teed up for the audit?
They gave us a range in here. The fiscal impact is anywhere from 27 to 37,000 for each fiscal year.
How did that compare to the last one? Let's see.
It is comparable, yes.
Moving forward, once we get all the audits caught up, this is work that I do myself when we're on a regular audit schedule. But because so much time is needed to pull these reports together, it just helps if we can get a firm in to help us pull all the reports together and get everything ready. And then when the auditors come in, then we can deal with answering questions, troubleshooting, working through the rest of the issues or missing documents or whatnot, whatever is applicable at the time.
So this will be for 22, then we'll have another hit of this on 23, and then we'll be good to go with your,
So this is for 22, 23, and 24. I think what she means in the future is by like 25. We're looking at like by 25, 26 when we're back on track. Yeah.
thank you.
So do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
We got a motion by David. I'll second. To approve the hiring of, who is it again?
Rotifer and Moss.
Rotifer and Moss?
Yes, sir.
All right. And is this for all 3 years, India? Or is this just for the one physical year?
This is for FY 22, 23, and 24.
Okay, all right. So for the next 3 years. And the physical impact is 27 to 37 per year then, correct? Okay.
Correct,
Make
yes,
sure
that's the
all
range.
that's clear in the motion. All right. So I got a first by, who was it, David? And Randy seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries 100%. All right, moving on to item 11, resolution of support of the grant application to Virginia Department of Health and Planning Design Fund.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just do a brief lead-in. This item is for support for the grant application for VDH. Before you, we have our intern who reached out to us maybe a couple months ago about his interest to intern with the town. And I quickly brought him on. He's an unpaid intern, but he'll give you a brief background of himself. He recently graduated from Liberty University. He's a Caroline resident, town of Port Royal, so he imported someone from another town, but I won't hold it against him. Carmel School graduate, and he's been doing great work for the town in the last couple of months. And so I'll let him do his brief background, the work that he worked on, and then kick it over to JC to finalize. Thank you.
And your name is again?
Yes, my name is Jeffrey Smith.
Smith.
I've almost very, very close graduated with a Bachelor of Science in English and Writing with a focus on technical and grant writing.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, I thank you.
Welcome.
I've very much enjoyed all of the work I've done so far. And most of my introduction, I mean, there's not too much to say. So I'll just get into the work I've been doing specifically for the VDH Planning and Design Fund. The town manager tasked me with compiling information for the sake of preparing for the application process for pursuing the Planning and Design Fund. Furthermore, I have drafted the resolution of support to better align with our intended project scope and ask. That's mostly the long and short of it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So just to give you some more details on the program itself and the project, this project came to us from the Virginia Department of Health. In our discussions with them regarding potential mitigation options for gross alpha, they recommended that we look at this design fund. So this is a state entity did advise us to look into this grant program. The town did so, and the town manager connected the staff with Stantec, and we are collaborating to prepare as competitive an application as we can. As Mr. Smith mentioned, this is the Department of Health's Planning and Design Fund. We are requesting the maximum award amount, which is $45,000 in the grant application. There is no local match, which is, of course, always beneficial. So the project itself is called the Town of Bowling Green Hydrogeologic Source Evaluation Project. And the goal of the project is to investigate and fully understand the natural conditions within which the town must operate to mitigate the presence of gross alpha in the drinking water system. This may inform potential new well locations, as well as advise us on treatment options for existing wells. So that's the project, that's the goal, that's the dollar amount. And the resolution of support that's attached to the staff report is a required component of the application process. Thank you.
And just we'll add a little bit more to that. I'd like to thank Mr. Sean Fortune, who's been working also behind the scenes with the team. As you mentioned, we've had several calls with VDH, our representative from VDH, as well as Stantec, as we worked on this application. So we do need the resolution of support to move forward with the grant process. So thank you for your consideration.
So, I mean, this is wonderful. How did we find out about this grant process?
After we received communication from VDH in terms of the notice of violation, they suggested opportunities for us to go after some grant opportunities, and this is one of them.
So
and this is kind of the first iteration.
How did we find our free intern? I mean,
He found us.
so are you?
He had rumors that we had great staff at town hall now, and
Absolutely.
he found me out.
Are you related to anybody that was just in the room? Yeah, awesome. Well, it's great to have local talent. Thank you for your work. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mr. Mayor, can I go ahead and read this motion? All right. I move the council adopt the attached resolution of support for the town's grant application to the Virginia Department of Health Planning and Design Fund to obtain funding for the Town of Bowling Green Hydrogeologic Source Evaluation Project.
Second.
All right, I got a first by Jeff, second by Gene. If I miss something, don't laugh at me, but who's going to be doing all this? Grant, working on all this for the grant and the work after we get the grant. What are we looking at after with the money?
So staff is going to continue to collaborate with Stantec and now perhaps in Bowdoin to finalize the application, make sure all of our experts are on board so we have a really competitive application. Now, if we are to receive an award, staff will be managing the grant management side of things, but the money would be needed to hire a contractor, an engineering firm that has hydrogeologic expertise to actually go and do the groundwater testing with the various aquifers at the various depths.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, motion carries 100%. All right, we're getting some work done today, folks. Let me tell you. Number 12. Resolution to support of private acquisitions of real property owned by Virginia Department of Transportation. JC?
But, Mr. Mayor, before we
Yes,
get
sir.
going, I just wanted everyone to know that I do have a personal interest in the company that's requesting this, and I'm going to recuse myself from.
You are going to?
Yeah, from, any discussion, and I'm going to step out into the audience while this goes on.
Okay. Dan, make note, Dan Webb has recused himself from this item. Now you have, never mind. All right, so go ahead, JC, you got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. J.C. Lerviere, Director of Community Development and Partnerships. So the town was approached by Mr. Tory Williams on behalf of Fairmont Commercial LLC to request the council adopt the attached resolution of support, which is being requested by the Virginia Department of Transportation as a part of their disposition process when they sell off their right-of-ways. So just to be real basic with it, the town currently has no interest of any kind in the subject parcel. It is owned by the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Transportation. So what that means is we cannot tax it, so it currently produces no revenue, nor can any of our residents or business users utilize it and get any utility from this parcel. It is the parcel itself is about 3.2 acres. It's a relatively sizable parcel of land within town limits that is not currently producing revenue or any kind of utility for the town or its residents. Furthermore, the town is not a party at all to this transaction. Again, this is just a procedural component of VDOT's process in their right-of-way disposition. So essentially, adopting this resolution of support would allow the town to be able to tax this relatively large parcel and hopefully provide some kind of utility to the residents of the town of Bowling Green. And I'm here to answer any other questions you have.
Hearing no questions, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
As a business person here in town and as the county seat, recently we had a piece of property on Main Street, which was a florist that the county purchased. And so we all realize that the county of Caroline owns a lot of real estate in our town that we receive no tax from. And so every time they buy a piece of property, and not that I'm against that, it takes it off our revenue rolls. This piece of property, which I guess 90% of the folks in town didn't even know existed or what it was, is a nice piece of property that VDOT, I guess, acquired when they put in that bypass, for those of you all that lived around here a long time ago. It's one of the gateways to our community, and it's a great piece of property that I hope that can be developed. And so I move that the town council adopt the attached resolution of support in favor of the proposed acquisition of the subject property by Fairmont Commercial LLC from VDOT.
Second.
All right, I got a first by David, I got a second by Jeff. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call. Gene?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Randy? Aye. All right, and we got one exclusion. Motion carries. All right. The item on that had been added to the agenda, which is item number 12A, discussion of retaining David Davenport and Company as a town financial advisor. India?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for walking this item on. Got this a little bit after the agenda packet went out. But as you know, we received notification not too long ago from Moody's that our credit rating was going to be downgraded. So in the interest of, again, kind of righting our financial ship, that kind of dovetails with the audit work, I thought it'd be best that we bring Davenport and Company. I think Mr. Voigt mentioned that a few years back, Davenport actually helped the town on some matters. So I'd like to bring them back to assist us with a comprehensive financial review of our governmental and business type activities, evaluate the town's overall fiscal health, address our credit rating, as I mentioned, evaluation of our key debt ratios, evaluate existing or implementing some new financial policies, as well as assisting us with multi-year long-term capital planning and funding approaches. And I'll hand it over to RT to fill in anything else.
Thank you, India.
Thank you.
My name is RT Taylor. I'm with Davenport and Company. I've been with Davenport for 20 plus years. We work with many of your neighboring entities. In fact, I used to work with Mr. Culley when he was down in Middlesex, which is where I just came from this evening. I was down in Saluda at their board meeting for the county before I got here, and I passed through several other localities that we work with. So we work with a lot of the localities around you and across Virginia. And we love doing what we do, and we stay intact with our clients on a regular basis. We do a lot of what we're proposing for y'all tonight. We do that on an annual basis. It's usually done in conjunction with the budget process. Some people start it as soon as fiscal year end is over in June 30. We come in and everybody's starting to circle up with the department heads, getting their requests both from operating needs and capital needs, and continues on. Others wait till January, and it's a mad dash to get it done before y'all need to adopt it. So everybody has different takes on it, but we do work with a lot of folks to do this in particular on a regular basis. And really what we're proposing to do as what we like to call the comprehensive financial review, it's sort of a dovetail to what your auditors do, right? They're presenting to you your financial statements at a point in time, sort of in a vacuum for this fiscal year. We take and build upon that and sort of do a historical spread of your financials. And what this will include, this go around in particular, because y'all are trying to catch up on your audits, it will include the past couple fiscal years, but it will be unaudited information, and we can always clean that up later. But in our conversations, we believe that we got the information we need historically, we can get up to date, and then what we do a lot of too is modeling projections going forward, because what we're trying to figure out, number one, to what was discussed earlier, are we structurally balanced from an operations perspective? Do we have enough recurring revenue sources versus recurring expenses, right? Expenditures. Not to mention, we know we've got some projects coming down the pike, whether we like it or not. How are we going to bring that debt on responsibly? How are we going to do it in a sustainable fashion? And how are we going to have to adjust our revenues to cover water and sewer versus general fund and keep them separate? So we take it really from the perspective of how do the credit markets look to us? We may never have to go out and issue debt in the public markets. We might have to go to a state pool, state revolving loan fund, which would be either VDH or DEQ, USDA. Even USDA is not I know a lot of people like to think of them as a lender of last resort, but they're not just obligated to lend money out left and right. They have a very stringent process that you go through. They look at things just like any other credit lender would look at. In particular, they're very adamant about keeping water and sewer separate from a records perspective and understanding how each of those work. And if a project is specific to sewer, then they're only going to count the sewer stuff. So we got to manage our funds a little bit, and that's what we do as a deeper dive to help give some perspective around that. General fund side, let's think about it from terms of our fund balance. You know, yes, our fund balance might be $500,000, $1 million, whatever, but is that the right amount? Where do we need to be? Where should we manage to? What's a good dollar amount or ratio, or should we have parameters that establish both? And how do we compare to our peers? So doing that both on the general fund side as well as the utility side to make sure we're fiscally healthy, fiscally sustainable, and then trying to figure out long-term, okay, what's coming down the pike? How can we model up projections to stay ahead of any sticker shock moments, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, any questions?
So, India, we're potentially at a point where our credit score may go down.
Yes, myself and the town treasurer were, Ms. Staples, were notified of that. I think time is running together, but sometime in May, that we are most likely facing a credit downgrade.
So, and then tell us how that would hurt us.
If we go out to issue more debt, having a less favorable rating, we won't get as great of rates. I'm not sure as much as if granting agencies look at our credit rating. I will say just where we are on audits in general is not a great place from a financial position in terms of just overall fiscal responsibility and how that scores on some grant applications. So RT's work is really to help us align with that and ensure that we're moving in the right direction. I myself have been a part of 2 credit rating upgrades when I was assistant to the city manager in Petersburg during a pandemic, which was unheard of. I've never been a part of credit downgrades. So definitely want to get back on the right track, trending upwards and not the direction we're going. So I would say it's imperative for us to get that advising back on track so we can move in the right direction.
Good. And so do you feel confident we can get this corrected?
It's going to take some work, right? I mean, we're here to create the modeling, provide the perspective, institute some strategy going forward. So we're starting from plumbing from this corner, and we've got to move forward, and we're going to give the best advice that we can give.
Gotcha. Well,
help you all
y'all
accomplish that.
We've worked with Davenport in the past, and it's a great firm, so.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Where is our credit rating sitting at right now?
That is a question we are still trying to nail down. We got just a kind of a vague email that said it's going to be downgraded. We're still looking into that.
I don't want to stake ourselves out or even staff on that because we don't know where we are on how long it's going to take the audits. We don't know where we are fiscally. So I want to make sure, let us get started, let us do this work and then come back and maybe revisit the plan of attack or plan of action and maybe the next steps and projected timeline. How about that?
I'll say just as a comp, we did 3 audits in 2 years in Petersburg when we were behind, and we got 2 consecutive credit upgrades in a year span. So it is possible, but it'll take it's a heavy lift. So
Thank you.
So, in other words, we're not downgraded because we're not paying our debt. We're downgraded because we're not keeping our audits up and showing what our actual funds are and have, so that's where we're at, right?
correct.
I haven't seen the letter, so
The notice we received was because we have not provided our FY23 financial statements. So we're just finishing 21 in income just scale.
Do we
So
have any idea what it's going to cost us to?
this engagement that you all would be authorizing is not to exceed $20,000.
Okay.
And how often would you be here? Are you doing off-site work, or how will you do this?
So the way we typically work, and we can be at every meeting you want us to be at. We're right down the road in Richmond. That's where I'm headquartered out of. So if we had to come up here multiple times, not a problem. What we typically do is work maybe by email, getting some electronic documents, spreadsheets, things of that nature that will help us collect and compile the data we need to do the analysis. But we'll be sitting in our office in Richmond, but at some point, as we're working through the process, we'll obviously be coming up here and coordinating with staff to make sure, hey, we see this. Can you explain what's going on here? What about this variance? Explain some of these anomalies to us. That's where we do the deeper dive and figure out, okay, well, this might not necessarily be clear in an audit where you're looking at a point in time and you see, our rep earlier, he mentioned you budgeted for revenues, you came in better than expected on revenues, but our question would be why? Was it due to tighter collections? Did y'all up your game on collections? Was it something where it was tied to the increased value for the county across your assessed values, et cetera? What was that nuance, or was it something like a budgeting tool to sort of budget really conservatively on revenues, even though we're going to come in, right? So there's different tools I know that different localities use to get to where they need to go. We like to know how and why so that we can understand how we're balancing the budget on the operations side, before we go out and try to grab dollars to do our capital stuff.
All right. And who's the organization that does our credit rating?
Sorry, it's now, excuse me, it's now with Moody's. It used to be done in Bradstreet.
Oh, so it's Moody's?
It's Moody's now. The federal government, I think, announced the changeover maybe a year ago,
Okay.
I think.
And then y'all are the ones that then compile all this, and then you send a message or letters to Moody about our situation and what we're doing, our progress.
Logistically, we'll probably have to reach out to them as we make that progress, and we'll have meetings and points of contacts with them throughout that process.
So what would be the motion that we would need?
All right, this is for the move to an agreement to not to exceed $20,000. It's a draft motion. I move that the town council approve the town manager's recommendation to retain Davenport and Company as the town's financial advisor and authorize the town manager to execute the agreement.
Got a second, I got a first by Randy, a second by Valerie. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries 100%. All right.
Thank you all for having me here
Thank
this
you, sir,
evening. Thank
Jeff.
you for your.
Appreciate it very much, and I hope you get us back on track.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a closed session coming up, people. Are we, all right, item, that one is done. We only have one closed session to go into unless for any reason you have any thing to do with Breeze Line Cable Finance Agreement. If you all are happy with that, we will only go into one closed session. What you dealt with in the work session.
I don't think we have
All
anything
right.
from that.
All right, we're gonna be done with this, ma'am.
There's actually an issue with the item section. It's for the town's contract. Give you the motion.
All right, I'm sorry, we do have two. Well, that's one I have here, pursuant to discuss the compensation of the town employees, especially those, is that the one, or do we have another one? Additional one, okay. We will be going into closed session, so anybody here that will need to vacate, and you may come back once we resume back into open session.
You can read my handwriting. So it would be this one and then the one, I don't,
Pursuant into the town property and water service.
yeah, and I don't,
We're not doing this one.
I don't
We're
know.
not doing that one either.
This.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, we're going, everybody out? I haven't done this in a while, I hope I get it right. We're going into closed session for pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss the compensation of town employees, especially those employees who work directly with the town's water and sewer system. And pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with the town attorney regarding town property and water service.
I make that motion.
I got a
second
motion
it.
by David, I got a second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in closed session. We'll give you all 5-10 minutes to take a break. Use the men's room, whatever, ladies. Turn my mic back on, we can be heard better. We good?
Yeah.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to come back in open session?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, I got a motion by Jeff, second by Randy. All in favor, say aye. We are now back in open session. We need to certify, motion to certify that to best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully accepted from the open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened, we heard, discussed, and considered in the closed session by council. I will give a roll call, and all you say is I certify or I do not certify. Randy?
I certify.
David?
I certify.
Valerie?
I certify.
John?
I certify.
Dan?
I certify.
Jeff?
I certify.
Gene?
I certify.
Okay. All right, we are back in open session. Do we have a motion that we need to present to on the floor? All right, the motion is, I ask for a motion to make one-time deviation from the personnel policies to pay staff in the water and sewer department the amounts of annual leave they have accumulated in excess of 240 hours as of June 30th, 2024, and to pay all benefits for those employees separating from town employment.
And would be in the water and sewer department.
But that are in the water and sewer department. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Jeff made the motion. Randy seconded it. All in favor, if no discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, aye.
I think I got one more motion for you, Mr. Mayor.
I hope you do. Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, motion carries
Sorry.
100%. Do we have another motion on the floor?
I'd like to move that we adjourn.
I got a second on that. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.